Hello. Welcome to Tax Watch, the television show of the concerned taxpayers of Duval County. I'm Dave Smith, and we have distinguished guests today. Joseph Andrews. He's one of our members and a candidate for District 12 City Council. We have our pension expert, Curtis Lee, and he'll have comments about the pensions currently in negotiation or out of negotiation in the city. And local attorney John Winkler, also a member and board member. We'll start off with some ideas about our last meeting, monthly meeting. We hosted Nelson Cuba of the Fraternal Order of Police, and we do thank him very much, and we want to talk about that just a little bit. And of course he's not here to defend himself, so we'll try to make sure that we're fair. He makes a point of telling us that his job is to protect and get the best possible deal for the membership, and we're convinced of that. Of course, we as the concerned taxpayers are dedicated to making sure that the city does not spend, overspend and overtax. This is pretty much our job. We have a mission of eliminating waste, corruption, and general problems in government. Secrecy is another problem. Nelson Cuba made the point that the police lifespan tends to be low and the suicide rate high. We generally believe that the lifestyle and the work of police makes it difficult on the individual. We did follow up on that, found out that the difference between the lifespan of police and the general population is about a year. Is that right, Mr. Lee?
Well, I'm relying on what Mr. Cuba says, slightly less than a year difference, very close to average. So although the job may be difficult, it appears that, according to information available to me, that police and firemen live close to average lives.
Very good. And Mr. Cuba talks about how the city wastes money and the kind of spending that doesn't seem to be necessary, using that as a justification for the very favorable pension plans of the police. And I think it's a powerful argument because actually this is what we do. We criticize the city council and the mayor for spending in areas that are not really necessary. And Mr. Cuba made the assertion that the city makes one set of figures for the bonding agencies that lend money and another set of figures for the general public. What do you have to say about that, Kurt? Is this general practice for a government to do that?
Well, all large entities like to put spins on things, and so they will tend to put a better spin when they make a presentation to a bond rating agency. And the bond rating agencies don't lend. What they do is they rate the debt that the city issues to other entities, and the other entities are people like individuals and pension funds and insurance companies and other people who want a fixed return on their assets. So they will put a positive spin on the data, but they can't, there's only so far you can spin before you start getting into being untrue and
unethical.
Right.
Would it be fair to say that the city keeps two sets of books?
I have only seen the city books that the city publishes for the general public to see. So if there is something hidden there, I do not know, so I couldn't say that.
Okay. What other developments in pension plan negotiations and changes are happening?
Well, I'm not really involved in the negotiations, but what I have been involved in is looking at all the available pension documents. And what has disturbed me from the very beginning is the rich benefit formulas. The fact that the policemen and the firemen in the city, after 20 years of service, can retire at 60% of pay for life. So if you're a policeman and you start work at about, say, 21, which is possible and does happen, when you are 41, you can get a pension for life, and the pension is 60% of pay. The average pension of the police and firemen 2 years ago was $46,000. They haven't updated their numbers, but a fair guess is $50,000 a year. So there's a lot of people in their 40s in this city who have retired from the city, from the police and firemen, and from corrections officers, and they're getting in the neighborhood of $50,000 a year for life, and they get a 3% cost of living adjustment. Compared to the private sector, that is an obscenity. The private sector doesn't do that. The private sector can't afford that. And unfortunately, taxpayers are paying that. Taxpayers are paying $110 million a year out of the $1 billion city budget. That's 11% just goes to the pensions for city employees, and of that, 76 million or so goes to the police and firemen. So it's a huge piece of the budget, and it can be cut if the mayor and the city council have the will to do so. The mayor has been talking about trying to cut it, or trying to reduce the future increases in it, which are actually different things. But the mayor really isn't doing enough on that front. The mayor's proposals would still allow people to retire in their 40s and 50s at 60% plus. In fact, you can retire at 80% if you hang in there for 30 years. And he's not going after the 80% retirement ratio, the salary replacement.
Now, the fire department made concessions to the city. The general city employees made concessions. Those were what? No pay raises, or was it a cut for them?
I don't remember the details. It was like 2% cut 1 year and 0% raises in other years. The salaries, they need to go on two fronts. I mean, in my view, if you want a 3% salary reduction, you ask for a lot more than 3%, and that was a big error at the very beginning. Right. If you want to, you don't negotiate with your end game. You ask for a lot more than you hope to get. And the city didn't ask for much, so they didn't get much. And what they got will not prevent future tax increases.
Very good. Joe, John, do you have anything to add to that or follow up?
Well, let me say this. When Nelson Cuba was talking to us, one of his principal points about maintaining the position that at least the police department or the police fraternal order of police wasn't willing to accept any pay cut at this time, is his position that over the last 5 years, according to a forensic audit that he didn't have any real details on for us, but that he says he's had conducted by an auditor in South Florida, is that the city has managed to salt away $200 million that it's keeping in assorted places on the books. Now, part of that is in the reserve funds that are roughly $80 million. But the other $120 million, he says, is sitting there squirreled away in little accounts, in various funds, and until such time as he sees that we don't have the ability as a city to raise these kinds of funds. I mean, he believes obviously that the administration is basically playing a shell game and is pretending that we need to raise additional revenues in order to maintain a level of services that we're not maintaining. There really is no reason why we should be letting the grass grow to heights of 3 or 4 feet in the parks, and cutting back library hours, proposing turning off street lights. He finds all of that to be, and I have to agree. I mean, there is a certain amount of John Payton has gone around the past crying wolf about these things. Right. Maintaining that whatever cuts we make are going to be of draconian nature that are going to affect small children who want to go and get their Dr. Seuss books, right, rather than trying to make any kind of cuts or or adjustments in our procurement policies that might save us money. Yeah. So on that point, I have to say, Nelson Cuba certainly has a point if he can go ahead and